let me hope everyone's okay. And by name, I'm Madam Baraka Immaculate Falls, and I'm a teacher of agriculture, teaching at St. Mbuga Vocational Secondary School, Makindye. So today, I will be taking you through what we call farm tools, equipment, and implements. So we shall begin with the meanings of the different terms, that is farm tools, equipment, and implement. I know very many of us have seen this before, but we actually don't know how to categorize them. We've seen farm tools before, we've seen equipments before, and we've seen implements before. So up there you can see they're saying farm tools are simple instruments used by farmers to perform agricultural activities as land preparation, planting, weeding, harvesting, and all that. So in other words, farm tools are handheld instruments or simple instruments. As the examples say, hoes, rakes, shovels, spades, anything that you use when you use hands so that you perform a particular work or activity is a farm tool. Then when you head to farm equipment, there are machines and devices used in farming to make agriculture faster, easier, and more efficient. So for equipment, they're more like a collection of bigger farm tools. For example, a tractor, a harvester, a milking machine. Remember, your hands can also be farm tools if it comes to, let's say, milking, right? But now, for an equipment, it's a bigger picture of a farm tool. For example, a tractor, it has to have an engine, it has to have something that makes it move to perform the work. Yeah, of course there's an operator, but the entire tractor, for example, if you're going to plow using a tractor, you're going to have that machine where the operator sits, and then you're going to have the plow itself. So the entire thing is called an equipment. A harvester, same thing. You'll have something that harvests, and then the other part of the tractor that the operator sits, or the part that has an engine. So the entire thing is called an equipment. So when you move down to farm implements, they're telling us that farm implements are attachments or devices used with farm machinery to carry out specific operations. So example I can give, they're giving plow, harrow, planter, cultivator, or a trailer. So we've seen a tractor, right? It's the one that has the wheels and where the operator sits. So with an implement, it's this part that they just attach onto. I used an example of a plow. So when you're going to the garden and you decided to use a plow, there's that behind thing that plows. So that one is an implement, because they just put it onto it. They don't buy the entire tractor like that. No, they always attach it. So implements are just attached. An example I can give is look at yourself. A cloth is an implement. If we are told we are to use that example, you just put on a cloth, but later you can put it off. Yeah, shoes are implements, socks are implements. You just put them onto you to perform something, and then you remove them. Now we are going to be now looking at the classification of farm tools. But before we go deep into that, I wanted to show you some of the videos or the pictures so that you see the difference. What is a farm? How do farm tools look like? How do implements look like? And how do equipment look like? I want to show you some of the videos, some of the clips showing how does a particular tool look like, how does an equipment look like.
plow, hand hoe, sickle, rake, wheelbarrow, garden hose, grass shears, fork hoe, shovel, spade, tractor, seed drills.
Now, I remember saying we have equipment and implement. If you look behind here, they showed you a tractor. So this part where this man or the operator is sitting, the part that has wheels, is it's an equipment. The entire thing plus the plow behind is an equipment. So the whole of it as a tractor is an equipment.
Seed drills.
But then when you look at a seed drill, this other part behind, the part that is having a man standing on it, the one that drills the seeds into the soil, is an implement because it is just attached onto the tractor. Okay.
Hand sprayer, harvester, thresher, grass cutter.
So a grass cutter, the fact that there's nothing attached to it and it still has a motor or an engine that runs it, it becomes an equipment because it has the part that cuts, then the behind part that also has the motor and the engine. So it becomes an equipment. So we are now going to be looking at some of the farm machinery.
Farm machinery refers to specially designed equipment used in agriculture to perform tasks like plowing, planting, harvesting, and transporting crops efficiently. Let's learn the names of different farm machines. Precision seeder.
Now, when you look at the precision seeder, yeah, you can call it a planter too. The fact that it plants with precision, that's why it's called a precision seeder. This other behind part that has things like plastic bottles and then the red part of it, that is an implement. Then the other part that has an operator in it, the one that looks like a car, that is the tractor. So the whole of it, the whole of the precision seeder becomes a farm equipment. But the other behind part, this seeder becomes the implement because it is only attached. So let us not get confused when it comes to the two. I've had students who confuse equipment and implement. Yeah. Now, the best way you can differentiate these, farm tools are handheld. Ozikwata mu ngalo, for those who can understand Luganda, okozesa engalo to carry out farm activities. Yeah? But then a farm equipment, it is the entire machinery, tractor plus plower, tractor plus seeder, tractor like the harvesters. It's an entire machinery. Then an implement is something that you can put it and then remove, put it and then remove. So we are now going to be looking at the classification of farm tools. Farm tools are grouped according to their uses. One, we have land preparation tools. As you can see, we have examples of hoes, cutlasses or machetes. Those are pangas, spade, shovel, and rake. For hoe, I know most of us have seen a hoe somewhere. So even if you stay in London, you should have seen a hoe somewhere. Even if you've never used it. People who have never used hose but have seen hose. So basically, hose are used for weeding, digging, making ridges, digging up holes. That is the work for holes. For hose, telling it helps a farmer to loosen soil before planting. Number two, types include machetes, all those are pangas. They're used for clearing bushes, cutting grass, harvesting some crops, or even cutting small trees. Now, for pangas or machetes or cutlass, but now we are going to use pangas because that's what everyone knows. For pangas, there are things that we use. There are crops that we use pangas to harvest. For example, sugarcane, elephant grass. Elephant grass is it's a type of pasture given to cattle. It looks like sugarcane, but it's not. Sugarcane is called elephant grass. You can use it to cut small trees around. Maybe let's say you've purchased land and you want to use it for agricultural purposes, but then the land has some small trees, it has shrubs. You don't use a hoe to remove. You know, you walk around the village, you're going to find people using farm tools or equipment implements to do work that they are not supposed to do. You find someone using a what a hoe to chop off the shrub or to cut off those small trees. But then we all know hoes are kind of blunt; they cannot remove those things with ease. So that's why you always have to know the right purpose of a right equipment or tool or implement. So we are going to look also at a spade. A spade and a shovel always confuse people. Yeah, a spade, it is used for digging and turning soil. Then a shovel is used for lifting and moving manure. So I just want a spade has a blunt end. In other words, a spade has, it is not sharp pointed. It is rather flat or a straight. The blade is straight. It is not sharp pointed. But a shovel is sharp. When you look at a shovel, the ends of it want to look like it's making a triangle. That is a shovel. And then a spade is the one that wants to look like, you see how a hoe is in front? That is how a spade looks like. They all serve different purposes. Though when someone buys a shovel, they will use the shovel to do the work for a spade, which is not right. Number five, we have a rake. It's used for collecting leaves, removing debris, and leveling soil. Debris is like left. For example, let's say you have harvested, yeah, and then you want to clear off the land. Of course, you remove part of the stalk. For example, if you're harvesting maize and maybe beans, you remove those stalks and put off, but there's some that always remain. So to ease your work, you just pull it off with a rake. Planting tools. These tools help farmers plant seeds or seedlings. These ones are like dibbers. Those who do not have dibbers, we are going to see a video that is going to show us all these. We have dibber, we have seed drill, we have a trowel, we have a trowel. When you look at a dibber, A dibber, its work mostly is to plant seeds on a nursery bed. And then a seed drill, we've seen a seed drill. For it works on a larger piece of land. And then a trowel is always used to remove seedlings from a nursery bed to the main garden. So a trowel, there are two trowels. There's one they use in building and one that they use in the agricultural work. Though of course there are people who still use that word of constructing to carry out agricultural activities, but the trowel for agriculture is very different. We are still going to see all that. Then now we are going to go to the next category, which is our weeding tools. These ones are used to remove unwanted plants that compete with crops. Those are weeds. Someone who is asking, if maybe you're down there asking what are these unwanted plants? These unwanted plants are called weeds. One, we have a hand hoe. We already explained what a hand hoe does. We have a weeder. The weeder is also like a machinery, just specifically for weeding. Cutlasses, that is a panga. It is used for cutting tall weeds and grasses. Then we look at harvesting tools. Harvesting tools are used for getting already matured crops or plants. For example, if you want to harvest maize, you want to harvest rice, you want to harvest skuma, you want to harvest any other crop that you may have planted, there are specific farm tools, equipment that are supposed to do that. One, we shall start with a sickle. It is a curved blade used for harvesting crops such as wheat and grass or rice. Harvesting knife used for cutting fruits, vegetables, and other crops. We've seen very many times in the village when they are going to harvest crops, you find that people will go with nails, knives, so that they can open the cob and then remove the maize and put it in a sack. Others don't have all that time. They just go in the garden, they use pangas to like cut the stalk, go home, and then remove the cobs. And then we also have livestock management tools. These are used for caring for farm animals. Just like animals, we human beings also have all these things. Yeah. For example, a feeding trough. A feeding trough is like a plate for human beings. If you're using a plate, that means a cow, a goat, a pig, poultry, they all have their own plates. And these plates are called feeding troughs. So the feeding troughs are where they put feeds for animals to eat. It's not nice when you're having some animals, but the best thing you can do is you chop the elephant grass, you chop any other meal you've brought for your animals, and then you put it on the floor. If you were the person that was eating from the floor, would you feel nice? Someone might say, oh, but others are grazers, others are brazers. Grazing, that means they are getting their food direct from the source. But this food that you are just giving it, you need to put it on a plate, its own plate called a feeding trough. We also have a water trough. This is where you put water for drinking for the livestock. Just like you use a cup, right? So animals too deserve that kind of respect. Give them feeding troughs, give them a water trough. We have a hoof cutter. These are used for trimming animal hooves. If you've seen some of the videos that show that have people rearing horses, yeah, their hooves are always trimmed off, yeah, because they overgrow and then make it difficult for the animal to walk. So that a hoof cutter is used to do that. A veterinary syringe used for administering medicine and vaccines. This is basically, it wants to look more less like the normal syringes the doctors use to treat us. Okay. Now we are done with the tools. We're now going to look at the farm equipment. So a tractor is a powerful farm machine used to pull implements and perform heavy agricultural operations. Remember when we said that an equipment is the entire machinery that has a tractor and a particular implement. So a tractor, for it pulls the implement. Okay. One, the users have plowing fields, harrowing soil. Harrowing is like digging the soil, planting crops, transporting farm materials. All those are uses of tractors. So everything has a disadvantage and an advantage. There's nothing, however much it is very small, it will always have a disadvantage, it will always have an advantage, though one may overweigh the other. So let's look at the advantages of tractors. One, it saves labor. If you have, let's say, 1 acre of land or 3 acres of land, and let's say you have a friend, I have 1 acre of land, and then you also have 3 acres of land. Or if both of us have 3 acres of land. If I choose to use one person to dig those 3 acres of land, and then you choose to use a tractor to actually plow and harrow that land, you are going to finish way. You're not going to need very many people to work on that land. Rather, I'll have to use like 10 people or even 5, 6, depending on how fast I want that land to be prepared. But if for you, just one tractor is enough. Yeah. Next, covers large areas quickly. Same thing. The fact that I'll be using 5 people to carry out farming or tillering or harrowing on these 3 acres of farm, or 3 acres of the farm, I'm going to use a lot of time to cover a very small piece of land. But then if you're using a tractor to do all these things, you'll cover these pieces of land in a very short time. Improves farm efficiency. Farm efficiency basically means that if you are to plant something, or if you're to carry out a particular farm activity, it is done to the maximum. Yeah. But then if I'm using one person who maybe no humans can fall sick anytime. They can be affected by the rain. So meaning, if that person is sick and is forcing themselves to work, they're not going to dig that land properly. But then a tractor, as long as you've done servicing, it has fuel, and the person operating it is skilled, that if the farm efficiency will be at par. Then we look at the disadvantages. It is expensive to buy and maintain. Yeah, truth be told, when you look at the expense you use in buying a tractor, it's too much compared to when you are going to get someone to dig. You get 3 people to dig maybe an acre of land, and you spend, let's say, roughly 300,000, right? But then if you are using a tractor, just purchasing a full tractor the way it is, you might need like 2M, 3M. Yeah. And then after purchasing it, you have to buy fuel. Yeah. After buying fuel, you have to make sure that you carry out what we call servicing and maintenance. So you find that the cost that you actually put into this thing is actually too much. It requires skilled operators. It's just like a car. If someone doesn't know how to drive or how to operate a tractor, they end up causing accidents. It uses fuel, which is expensive even right now. Yeah. So imagine you have a farm, and then 1 liter of fuel is like 10,000 or 15,000. Yet uh you need like 20 liters of fuel so that your farm activities are carried out properly. So it becomes way expensive. Then when you look at a combined harvester, we shall see videos of this later and see how they actually operate. A combine harvester, you're going to find that it does all. It harvests, it removes husks, and then there is another part where the harvested crops are placed, like a different kind of tractor where they are placed. One is used for cutting crops, separating grains from plants, cleaning harvested grains, and some of the crops that they use these combine harvesters are one, wheat, rice, or maize. So for wheat is these are these crops that they you see engano, like baking flour, where they get baking flour. The plant is called wheat. Rice, everyone knows rice, and maize. And then we shall look at the irrigation equipment. These are used to supply water to crops. People who have used the eastern route, you always find around Kibimba rice scheme and the sugarcane plantation. When they're still seedlings, yeah, you always see those sprayers that tap tap tap. So they keep on spraying. It's an irrigation system that supplies water, because you're not going to have people coming to to water crops manually. It takes a lot of time and energy. So these ones they help to supply the water. Examples, you have water pumps, sprinklers, and pipes. The importance, it allows farming during dry seasons, helps crop growth, and reduces dependence on rainfall. Of recent, we've been having a dry spell, even alone the past 2 days where it has been raining, but we've been having a very serious dry spell that I was having senior two students carrying out vegetable growing. So we were forced to actually get some water from the tap and first pour on the land to reduce on the dust and soften the soil before they could carry out the digging. So when you have these irrigation equipment, it makes work easy for you. You can just connect the pipe and then just spray the water. Next we have sprayer. It's used for applying chemicals such as pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers. One, we have a knapsack sprayer. If you're very keen, they showed a video of a knapsack sprayer, a picture of a knapsack sprayer in a video that we had watched. But this one is put on, it looks like a jerry can. So the farmer puts it on the back, and then there is a spray. So in there, they put different chemicals that carry out different purposes. For example, pesticides. These ones are used for killing pests. For example, aphids, armyworms. Herbicides are used for killing or eradicating weeds. You know, there's some weeds that you can't basically just uproot. Yeah, but they need the chemicals to actually burn them. Or you might find that there are people who actually have very big pieces of land and they cannot employ 30 people to weed because of the expenses. So what this farmer does, they just buy the herbicide, mix it properly. After mixing it, they put it in the sprayers and then they spray the entire garden. There are different types of herbicides. We have non-contact, we have contact. So the non-contact, it doesn't have to touch the weed itself. Okay. The contact, it has to touch the weed for the weed to actually die out. We also have fertilizers. There's some fertilizers that you can spray. There are some fertilizers that you can just you can apply on the soil. Yeah, for example, the organic manures or the organic fertilizers, the ones you get from cows, kitchen refuse, livestock. Yeah, those are organic manures. Those ones you don't need to mix it and spray. For those organic fertilizers, you have to apply them on the soil. There are these inorganic fertilizers where you have to first mix in water. You spray the plant. Sorry. They're telling you uses pest control, weed control, and disease prevention. Number 4, we're now going to look at the farm implement. The best farm implement you can always look at, the first is a plow. It is the first farm implement that should always come to your mind. A farm implement used for turning and loosening. A plow is a farm implement used for turning and loosening soil. So types, you have a moldboard plow, we have a disc plow. So a moldboard plow, if you've been to these farms, you would see for it does not have different discs separated. It's just one big board that helps to carry out the plowing. The disc plow has the discs. Importance: improves soil aeration, buries weeds and crops residues, prepares land for planting. Then another implement is a harrow. Harrows are basically used for harrowing, and after plowing, they use them to break soil clods. Soil clods are bigger parts. You see, when a tractor has passed in the farm, it always leaves those big sized soils that have been cut. So those big sized soils are called soil clods. Yeah, they're called soil clods. Now, after plowing, you cannot just plant when the soil is like that, meaning your seeds are not going to sprout. However much they might sprout, they will not have the energy to maneuver around these big particles of soil, or rather soil clods. So that's why after plowing, always have to carry out what we call harrowing. We have a disc harrow, we have a spike tooth harrow. So these ones help in breaking down those bigger particles of soil. They make the soil now finer compared to the plow. Next, we have a cultivator. It is used for loosening soil and controlling weeds between crop rows. So a cultivator does two things. It will also work as a weeder, okay, and then helps to also loosen the soil. Planter basically helps in planting the seeds. A trailer is an attachment pulled by a tractor used for transporting. So remember when we were talking about a combined harvester. When you're having a combined harvester, there will always be a trailer where you're going to transport these crops that have already been harvested. You can also transport the fertilizer that you're going to put in the garden, farm tools, livestock feed, etc. So before we go to maintenance of farm tools and equipment, I think I'm going to first take you back. Okay, I'm going to first take you back. You see how these videos, how these things actually work. So finally, this has helped us to I wanted to show you the difference between a spade and a shovel. So when you see, as I said, if you can read that we have edging, we have a trench shovel. So a shovel has a sharp end at the end. Okay, so these are different types of shovels. They have a sharp end at the end. Then to show you a spade. Now,
In a recent video, I showed you how I edge beds using a different technique with a screw that potentially.
now this is a spade. Yeah. So from today onwards, do not fail to differentiate between a shovel and a spade. Okay. A spade has a flat end. A shovel has a sharp end. So I want us to watch and see some of these farm machineries and what they actually do.
precision seeder,
we had ended on a precision seeder.
field sprayer, field sprayer, plow, plow,
Then another thing, if you want to differentiate now, you see these horses are going to work like our equipment, yeah, because they're the ones that are engineering this local plow, okay?
transplanter, transplanter, potato planter, potato planter, combine harvester, combine harvester,
See, this is harvesting, then this is the trailer, the ones we're talking about.
forage harvester,
That this other part of the one with green and a pipe on top, its work is to harvest. Then the one with the red part, its work is to just collect. That's what we call a trailer.
forage harvester, corn harvester,
So you see, all harvesters have
corn
trailers.
harvester, potato harvester, potato harvester, sugarcane harvester, sugarcane harvester, grape harvester, grape harvester, cotton picker, cotton picker, grain cart, grain cart, silage wagon, silage wagon, hay rake, hay rake, hay tedder, hay tedder, mower conditioner, mower conditioner, baler, baler, bale wrapper, bale wrapper, bale spear, bale spear,
So some of you might be asking, what is a bale? A bale is in agriculture. See, when you carry out livestock farming, we always have what they call hay and silage. So what you're seeing as a calling bale is just hay. Hay is partially dried grass. So they get some of these pastures, could be a pasture grass, and then they partially dry it and they make them into balls called bale. Yeah. So this machinery that you're seeing, one helps in collecting the grass to make that ball or bale. Then one is used for wrapping up the bale, and then the other is used for transporting. This bale spear is just pierces into the bale after the grass has already been collected, then it takes to a storage unit.
silage bagger, silage bagger, land leveler, land leveler, disc harrow,
So as you can see, remember when we said we have disc harrows, yeah? We also have a disc plow. So for the disc harrows, if you look at this, the first one here, yeah, it has rigid blades, yeah, and then for the disc plow, it's a little big. It's the discs are a little bigger than this, and they are not rigid at the end.
disc harrow, power harrow, power harrow, tine harrow, tine harrow, rotary tiller, rotary tiller, subsoiler, subsoiler, chisel plow, chisel plow, bed shaper, bed shaper, cultivator, cultivator, seed drill, seed drill, planter, planter, air seeder, air seeder, sprinkler system, sprinkler system, drip irrigation system, Drip irrigation system. Center pivot irrigation. Center pivot irrigation. Irrigation pump. Rain gun. Rain gun. Hose reel irrigator. Hose reel irrigator. Boom sprayer. Boom sprayer. Fertilizer spreader. Fertilizer spreader. Manure spreader. Manure spreader. Crop duster. Crop duster. Weed wiper. Weed wiper. Flail mower. Flail mower. Rotary mower. Rotary mower. Post hole digger. Post hole digger. Rock picker. Rock picker. Stone burier. Stone burier. Front loader. Front loader. Box blade. Log splitter. Log grapple. Log grapple. Pallet forks. Pallet forks. Mulcher. Mulcher. Stump grinder. Stump grinder. Livestock trailer. livestock trailer, cattle chute, cattle chute,
So for cattle chute, in our layman's language, we call it a cattle race. Yeah, that is where they make these to direct the cows. Either if they're entering into the dip, a dip is where they put acaricides that help. Acaricides are chemicals that help in killing the external parasites on an animal. So a cattle chute just helps to make them follow or go to the dip. Or some other guys use cattle chutes along the rails of the cattle chute. They put sprays. So instead of a dip, they use the cattle chute to have sprays that just spray the animals while they are standing or while they are moving.
milking machine, milking machine, feed mixer wagon, feed mixer wagon, grain dryer, grain dryer, grain auger, grain auger, windrower, windrower, shredder, shredder, chain harrow, chain harrow, slurry tanker, rotary spreader, rotary spreader,
So for the rotary spreader, it basically just sprays fertilizers, yeah.
pneumatic seeder, pneumatic seeder, broadcast seeder, broadcast seeder,
The difference between a numeric seeder and a broadcast seeder, the other first one, the numeric seeder, it plants in rows, like it's systematic. It's like the plants grow when they are in lines, okay, proper lines, both columns and rows. But a broadcast is just throws. In Luganda, I think they call it okumanza, if I'm not mistaken. It just throws anyhow. It spreads it anyhow. That is broadcasting. But not every plant is broadcasted. I don't expect you to be broadcasting beans, okay?
rice transplanter, rice transplanter, soil pH meter, soil pH meter, utility tractor, utility tractor, orchard tractor, orchard tractor, electric tractor,
For some of the farm tools implements that we have talked about, what I'm sure most of you have seen the pictures, how they look like. Just in case, you can always go back. You can always go back to Google and then get more pictures. Use YouTube, get more videos of how some of these machinery actually work. Now, we're going to the maintenance of farm tools and equipment. Now, everything that you use always has to be maintained. It has to be taken care of. Even you yourself, yeah, you cannot live without taking care of yourself. You have to bathe, you have to brush, you have to wash your clothes, you have to make sure you eat well, you sleep well, you drink enough water, you get. So even this machinery, however much they are non-living things, for them to actually keep working, yeah, and improve on the efficiency, you have to take care of them, you have to maintain them. So one way of maintaining them, I'm saying proper maintenance increase the lifespan and efficiency of farm tools, equipment, and implements. One, clean tools after use. We've seen this several times. Someone is going to come from the garden with their hose, with whatever they have used. They just keep them with the soil on them. Yeah, but you don't know. The more you keep these tools without cleaning them, the more they get spoiled. So you always have to make sure that after digging, after using a panga, after using a knife, please clean it and then keep. Next, remove soil and plant materials. This is where under cleaning the tools after use. Uh, it could be a plow, it could be a hoe. Remove those soil particles that have stuck onto the plows, because at the end of the day, you'll need to use it tomorrow. Yeah. And if you don't clean it, that plow is not going to effectively carry out its function. Number three, dry tools before storage, most especially these tools that are metallic. We all know what happens to metallic things if you don't dry them and you keep them with with water on them. They are going to end up rusting. The water will oxidize with the air, so much of chemistry, and then you end up seeing rust is, that the brown substance you find on metallic things. It could be a panga, it could be a hoe, anything. So if you clean, make sure you dry. Yes, don't just we clean and then no, clean and then dry to avoid them from rusting. Because if it rusts, it gets spoiled. That means you keep on buying new tools or machines. Sharpen cutting tools regularly. Yeah, you always have to sharpen the cutting tools. Uh, if you use a blunt tool, it's not going to do what you want. It could be a hoe, it could be a panga. You'll end up using a lot of energy with something very simple. Next, oil metal parts to prevent rust. But here you can say oil and grease movable parts of particular. It could be a tool, it could be an implement or an equipment. Yeah, because we always have friction that happens when you're using these equipments or tools that have movable parts. So to avoid that weird noise that comes out of it, yeah, you have to grease and oil. Repair damaged parts immediately. Do not wait for it to, no, we Africans, unless something has really died out, eh, that is when you now know, okay, now I have to actually change this. Yeah. So they're saying you immediately see something that has already worn out, change it, because it can easily cause accidents. If, for instance, a hoe, if you're using a hoe and then the stick that holds the part of the hoe is moving, you have to make sure you get something to make sure that that stick is firmly attached to the other metallic part of the hoe. You get, if anything has worn out, it can come out and even cut you without knowing. Okay. Then store tools in a dry place. I don't expect you to you've got your panga, you've used it, you've cleaned, then I tell you taking it to a place that has water, it will still rust. So clean, dry, and store it in a place that is also dry. Now here we have safety precautions when using farm tools and equipment. Now this helps us in a way that at the end of the day, they are machines, okay? And they can easily cause harm, be it a chemical, be it a tool, be it a machinery, be it an implement. They can easily cause harm. Now, the first thing you should always have in mind when it comes to safety precautions are the PPEs. PPEs are the protective wears, yeah, the protective clothing. For example, we have boots, we have overall, we have helmets, we have goggles, we have gloves, we have socks, you know. So all these help you as a farmer, or help us or me as an agricultural farmer to protect myself from injuries. It can be an injury from anything. For the eyes, it could be soil. You know, when you're digging, the soil it has not been raining, but then you have to clear land. The soil can easily enter your eyes. A helmet, anything can hit your head in the farm. It can be a stone, it can be a mango that is tired of being up there. It can be anything can hit your head. So you always have to put on that. And overall, that is self-explanatory. You cannot go to the garden without an overall. Leave a lesson, but for us in the village, just put on a short and a vest, you go. That is that is not right, because that is why you find that these guys who go there, they come back with very many bruises in the body, yeah, cuts on the body, maybe grass. That's why you find that now people who work in gardens that have grasses, yeah, immediately after working in that garden, then you go and bathe, you call all your ancestors, because your body will be itching, you get, since it was in contact with these grasses. So you have to protect yourself. That's why people keep saying, oh, agriculture is for poor people, agriculture does this, but they just don't know that we left the other agriculture of where you have to go, suffer, carry, like come back when you're looking like you've been fighting war in the garden. You get, agriculture has now been modernized. Everything's there. You don't have to look for that old short, eh, or a torn trouser for you to go to the garden. No, just be smart. Yeah, just be smart. Next, use tools only for their intended purposes. I remember I made this point when we are talking about the uses of some of these tools. Avoid using these different tools, equipments to carry out functions that are not meant for them. Okay? I don't expect someone to use a panga or a machete to make holes for planting seedlings, yet we have hoes. Okay? I do not expect someone to use a hoe for mixing cement. Let's say you're going to plant you're going to construct a kraal, you're going to construct a poultry house, but then you want to use cement, right? I don't expect to be using a hoe. A hoe has its different purpose. We've seen these, very many people use these tools for different things. It's like saying you're using, people who use saucepans as plates. Eh? They have served food, instead of you putting in a plate, for you, you're going to use a saucepan. Yet we all know saucepans are for cooking, and then plates are the ones that they put food, and then you eat from the plate. Let these farm tools do their specific jobs. Next, keep sharp tools away from children. So, even you yourself, keep sharp tools away from yourself, because some of us are very clumsy. You can use it to do anything, but for the children, you're going to find a kid in P2, P1, even P7, they are all, or even senior one. Yeah, you're very, very, very inquisitive and curious. You want to know, what does this thing do? Yeah, you'll be following your own intuition. Uh-huh. Now if I use this thing to do here, will it pay or it won't pay? And then you end up causing harm to yourself. So keep these sharp tools. Sharp tools, we're talking about knives, pangas, anything, a hoe, keep it away from young children, even our own selves. Yeah, you have to be careful when you're using them. Switch off machinery before repairs. This comes to basically the equipment. Yeah, you have to always switch off the machinery, the tractors, the combined harvesters, or even after use, you have to make sure that the engine is off, because anything can happen. Someone might step onto the gears and then it starts moving. Yeah, it can be a kid, it can be anything that makes that equipment move, then you end up causing accidents. So when you're repairing it, you also have to put it off. That is how you're repairing, and then a tractor starts moving backwards or forward. You end up causing accidents that you had not prepared for. Next, follow operation instructions. This works for all, but most especially when you are working with chemicals. Um, One of the most common accidents are the improper use of these pesticides, um, herbicides, yeah, or even fertilizers. So for you to avoid chemical hazards, you have to read instructions. Yeah. There are people, or at home, you find that if a carton of let's say a particular chemical is done, they get it, they can use it to do other things, not knowing how dangerous that chemical is. Now, even the kids, you have to keep away these things from the kids, most especially these chemicals. Yeah, someone is going to finish a chemical out of a bottle and they just throw it there. A kid will come and say, "Oh, I've picked something. Let me go and use it to play." They'll pour their water and drink. They'll put their food. When we were young, we used to play uh, the mommy and daddy stuff, where you have a family, you cook food, so you get those empty bottles and small saucepans, eh? And then you prepare the food, you serve the family food. So that is how kids end up getting sick. So you always have to make sure that, one, keep those things away from children, and then read the labels. Read the labels. There's some chemicals that are not supposed to touch your skin. Okay. There are some chemicals that, however much the bottle is done, you are not supposed to reuse it, reuse the bottle. There are some chemicals where you're not supposed to burn. Okay? You burn and then it will explode. You get? So please and please read the information or the operation instructions before use. Even tractors. Yeah. You really, really need to know how does a combined harvester work. Okay, how does a seed drill work? You'll end up putting seeds that are not supposed to be in that particular seed drill, and then you end up spoiling it and wasting a lot of money to pay up or to buy to repair. You get. So you always have to read instructions. Next, avoid loose clothing near moving machine. So that's why they tell us to put on these overcoats or overalls. Overall is going to be like on your body. Most of the overalls don't have loose clothing. Even if it's a belt, the belt is always onto the body. It doesn't. We don't have agricultural overalls that are that have loose parts. So you always have to make sure get something that fits without a loose part. Reason being, you might be operating a machine that turns, okay? Maybe a machine that keeps on turning particular farm produce. And then by accident, this loose part of the cloth enters that part of the rotating machine, and then it ends up either spoiling the cloth or uh, it itself getting spoiled or you getting harmed. So you have to make sure that you dress up in clothing, well-fitting clothing. Then store tools safely after use. This we've spoken about it after cleaning. You just don't have, yes, we've said clean after cleaning, dry it, and then keep it in a dry place. A dry place, we don't mean now you've washed your panga, you've washed your hoe, you've washed you've cleaned your plows. Now just put it in the compound. And now your compound has pavers. It has not rained, so meaning it is dry. No, 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 no. That compound of yours that has pavers, you might be having kids that come around. Okay, end up playing with it and spoiling it. Could be any other person, yeah, or else you can even leave it there and then it is stolen, yeah. So after purchasing these things, always make sure that you have a particular place for keeping them. Don't just use and dump them anywhere. Now we are now going to be looking at the importance of farm tools, equipment, and implements. Okay, I didn't want to put them first. I wanted us first know how are these farm tools or equipment uh, implements, how are they, what are they? So the fact that we've seen how broad they are, how they look like, how different they are, we can now set the importance. One, reduce the amount of human labor required. I remember explaining this earlier on. When you're having a big piece of land and then one person is having maybe three people carrying out the same activity, and then you have a tractor, this person, for this the first person to actually surpass or get to the point of how efficient your work is, they'll have to use more than three people because a machinery works faster than human beings. Number two, it increases farm productivity. So if you're having something, if you're having an acre of land, yeah, and then the other person is also having an acre of land, but then you are planting the same crops at the same time frame, yeah, you're going to find that the person with a tractor is going to have a higher farm productivity compared to you who is having one person on the farm, because they're going to finish tillering on time, they'll finish plowing on time, they'll plant on time, give the plants enough time to grow, and then they harvest. So you find that by the time you think of planting, this other person, the person using a tractor, the crops are already growing. Yeah. For you, you're still just planning to start planting. So that's why you actually need these farm tools, equipment, or implements. Number three, it saves time. Okay, it saves time. This is self-explanatory. A human being cannot work as fast as a machine. So when you're using a machine, it works way faster. Now, for example, if if I'm using if I'm going to milk and I'm using a milking machine, I'll milk faster than you who is using your hands. Okay, so it saves a lot of time. Next, it improves our quality of farm work. Same thing as increases farm productivity. The quality of when you're using, remember, human beings get tired. If you're using human labor, someone gets tired. You're going to find that if that person is supposed to work from let's say 6 to 6, this human labor that you're using is going to take like over 4 breaks. Okay, and yet they have dug a very small part. Yet if you're using a tractor, the operator can cover a big part in a very small, like in a very limited time, and they're not going to be they'll be tired. Maybe if they're to have breaks, they'll have like 2 breaks. Yeah, meaning the quality of that farm work will be different. Same thing, uh if you're weeding, let me use the example of weeding. If you're weeding and then you decide to use your hands to pull, that garden is going to look very ugly, because there are some weeds that you can actually not pull with your hands. But then if you use a hoe or you use a weeder, the garden will look very, very nice, because with a hoe, at least the weeds that have strong root anchorage will easily be removed. Okay. Next, enable farming on large areas of land. This is also self-explanatory. The fact that you're using machines, you cover up a bigger piece of land compared to when you're using a person. Shall use the other example of as human beings, there could be rain, there could be too much sunshine, there could be hunger. Yeah. So you end up covering small pieces of land. Yeah. Compared to when you're using a tractor. Next, reduce production costs. Yeah. So this means when you're harvesting, you're having 5 acres of land, you're harvesting, you will not need, let's say, 15 people or 30 people to harvest your maize. You'll just need one tractor. Because remember, these 30 people, you'll still have to pay them, give them breakfast, give them lunch, provide water. If anyone is sick, you have to look for, how to treat them. You get, so all that, when you look at the fact that you're using human labor, you will input a lot of money. Yeah. So that's what we call production cost, is the money that you put in when you're actually carrying out these farm activities. Let's say you're planting maize, rice, beans, but on a large piece of land. Yeah. The money you put in, those are production costs. But then if you're using only one tractor, let's say a combined harvester, to harvest all this, all as long as there is fuel and there is some good maintenance and servicing, your work will be done well without inputting a lot of money. Someone will say, but madam, you said when your tractors are a bit expensive. Yes, they're expensive at first purchasing, yeah, but at the end of the day, it becomes cheaper in the long run. When you're overusing it, it becomes cheaper. You'll not need to pay 1,000 people. Let's say you're paying someone 200,000 to dig a particular area. Yeah. So if there are 30 people or there are 15 people, you have to count 200,000 only labor. Then after labor, you have to buy fertilizers. Okay. After buying fertilizers, you have to buy maybe herbicides, yeah, or pesticides. So you see how the costs keep on accumulating. Then they make difficult tasks easier. For example, you're going to find people, they cannot weed properly, but then we have a weeder that does the work properly. Planting some crops requires a lot of energy, so meaning if you have a planter, it makes it easier for us. Now, as we're ending this lesson, let me hope now all of us know the difference between farm tools, farm equipment, and implements. And let me hope you can now tell someone the difference between an implement and an equipment. Please and please do not uh, forget that these three things are actually different and know how to differentiate them. The other thing is, if there is any question about farm tools, equipment, and implements, you can just write it down. I'm going to find them, then I'll be able to answer, and you'll get the answers. So in our next lesson regarding this topic, I'm requesting that we go make some research on first aid and accidents and first aid offered on a farm. Okay, accidents and first aid offered on a farm. So that is where we are going to be starting from in our next lesson. Thank you very much, and I hope I've added something onto you when it comes to farm tools, equipment, and implements. So in case of anything, I think we can just write down the questions, and then I'm able to answer them.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you too. Thank you too for coming around.
Thank you so
Have
much,
a nice
Madam
day.
Immaculate. Thank you all for attending today's live class. We have another live class tomorrow for history and political education at 9:30. At 9 to 10:30, please endeavor to attend. Today's live class was recorded and it can be accessed through the Magezi Harvest platform for any references and more clarification. Thank you very much. Thank you, Teacher Immaculate.
Thank you too, dear Lydia. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Good day too.